Well, man, it's definitely been a long 4 months here, but it sounds like we are getting that much closer to having actual games to talk about here soon. Actual games on the ice, where we decide to score, and ultimately playing the ultimate prize, which I always say it's the most impressive championship trophy in sports, the Stanley Cup here. Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel here, and after doing various NHL update videos for the last couple months here, we've definitely evolved a long way from playing games in some off-site proposals like in North Dakota or Saskatoon or Manchester, New Hampshire, and ultimately it came down to, well, we're going to have it in NHL arenas here, and all the speculation on where they're going to play these games. And now we're finally down to, for sure, from last week's video where I talked about there was proposals that, speculation and proposals that the hub cities was going to be Edmonton and Toronto here, and the CBA might actually be extended here. And actually, in fact, all that has happened here, as it's been confirmed that the hub cities for the return to play for the National Hockey League will be in Edmonton and Toronto here, both in Canada here, which I figured either both cities were going to be in Canada or the US here. And given how this pandemic has been going on, and not trying to boast being a proud Canadian here, but I think it's definitely easy to say that Canada has done a better job at controlling it than, let's say, in the US here. As yeah, we still get some hot spots up here in Canada, and case numbers still are coming in here, but it's definitely not at the same alarm rate that we're seeing down in the US here. So I'm definitely, of the major leagues, I'm actually most optimistic that the NHL, it's actually going to happen here once we have players that start their phase 3, which is the training camp here, in phase 4, which is when they go into said bubbles. I know that's a term that's been thrown around a lot here, where all teams will go in those respective hub cities here, while geographically Edmonton will host the Western Conference side of the bracket, and Toronto will host the Eastern Conference side of the bracket here. And the other thing that was confirmed, what was speculated last week here, is that so when we get into the playoffs and progress here, that once it gets to the conference championship and the Stanley Cup Finals here, that Edmonton is going to host that. So after the second round here, teams in the final four, or no, the final two in the Eastern Conference here will travel to Edmonton here to conclude the conference championship and the Stanley Cup Final here. And that's, for obviously trying to manage, and it will get much easier to manage these teams in said bubble here as teams get eliminated here. So that's definitely one thing. But it kind of combined in with the CBA being extended and this return to play plan here. And I guess there was some, pessimism news that doesn't seem to be true here, but there was a couple weeks ago that 75% of the players were saying that they do not want to return here. However, how they voted on the return to play and the CBA, it was both together here, and they kind of combined it together, which is kind of a smart thing to do right now with the NHL. Is it's definitely nice that there is some labor peace for the first time. Well, at least in the generation here, for sure. That ever since Gary Bettman's been commissioner here, has always been rife with the league and the Players Association. But I just figured there's definitely no reason for it right now, as both sides seem to be generally satisfied with everything. Both sides are making money here. Until the global pandemic and the pause here, but it definitely just makes sense to agree on it. And actually, there was a clause that I think it was last year, just last year, at the end of the summer here, that there was a proposal that the league and the Players Association, they had an option that they could reopen the negotiations for the CBA, and that instead, if it would expire in a couple of years, in 2022 here, it would have expired this September here, and both sides agreed to not open up negotiations here. So now, with this new CBA extension here, we are now kicking the can down the road until 2026 here. So it's going to be a 4-year extension here because we still got a couple more years left on the existing CBA here. Because they added 4 more years, so at least we're guaranteed some labor peace with the NHL and the Players Association up until the middle of September 15th, 2026 now, which is definitely encouraging here. I mean, especially, going through this global pandemic where, revenues are definitely going to be taking a hit big time here, and which is why the salary cap for the next couple of years is going to be flat here, which is still going to be stuck at the 81.5% here. Is definitely a different tone from earlier this year where we're thinking maybe it was going to go up to about $86 or $87 million here, but now that could potentially force some teams to shift gears and change their approach here, especially teams that are already spent to the cap here or have some pending unrestricted free agents or restricted free agents that they need to take care of here. And when I go through some dates here, we're definitely going to be making up for some lost time here. It's going to be 4.5 months between when the pause button was pressed here and then we'll press play here. And it's definitely exciting. And, I think once the players get into their bubbles here and how they're going to manage and control here, because once the players get into their bubble here, and it sounds like at least what we hear for the Edmonton side here, is that the 12 teams are going to be in a couple hotels here, and they're going to be restricted to their rooms there. I think it's similar to what the NBA players going into the ESPN World Sports in Orlando, Florida here, is that they need to have a couple negative tests and be in their room for 48 hours before they can go out, and it's all controlled where it's almost like, because I did see for the NBA that the players are wearing bracelets there to monitor that they make sure they're in this certain area here. Is once the players are in their bubbles here, they're not allowed to go out and roam free and in general public here, which right now the players are here, and I guess you could say positive cases are inevitably here, but testing has been ramped up, and the league's going to take care of all that. The league's going to take care of if errands or anything that the players need or want will get delivered to them. And we hear that once you get into the conference championships here, that they'll extend it so that players' families can maybe come join them here. And I think it's the same thing with the NBA, is that the players will get to put the bill for housing their families once they get into the conference championships here. So it's definitely exciting that there's going to be, sounds like there's going to be hockey again, and we're actually going to talk about games on the ice here. And then the other piece of it here is that we're going to still wait and see in a couple days here, as players might actually opt out here. There's definitely been some players that have said that they will not be participating in the return to play plan, which is definitely understandable if they don't feel comfortable, or because maybe some players have other extended family reasons. Like for example here locally, defenseman Travis Hamonic says he will not return to play here for family reasons here. And if any players that decide to say I'm not coming back for whatever reason, either they're not comfortable, or another case is Steven Stamkos, who's definitely of the Tampa Bay Lightning, isn't going to be coming back because he has a lower body injury. So, but any players that said they won't come back here, they will not get penalized for it. Won't suffer any disciplinary repercussions here. They'll have to give up their salary here, but that's at least nice to put that in there. So that's definitely another thing we're going to find out here in a couple of days, because July 13th, that's when training camp is going to be in here, and next few days we'll find out, because I believe it's in my case 3 p.m. Mountain or 5 p.m. Eastern time here, that the players, that's when they have up until that time to say, hey team, I'm not going to come back here, and specify reason why they're not going to come back here. So I'm going to still wait a couple weeks for my case where I do the game recaps, or I'll do a series preview with the Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets here when we get closer to the actual dates here. And we definitely know some dates here, because I think there's going to be 52 games potentially from August 1st to August 10th here, because that's when the both the play-in series and the top 4 round robin is going to be decided here to go into the official first round of playoffs here. But the NHL has deemed it that any stats that picked up between, let's say, in the play-in series will go in as playoffs here. So you could say we've made the playoffs for the second straight season here. definitely was the first time that we've done that since 2008 and 2009 there. Back when we had Mike Keenan as head coach here, and so we could say we're in the playoffs. So I mean, essentially, I'm calling it the playoffs here because it's still the same thing with the round robin. It's going to be players, or those 4 teams in the top 4 points percentage on each respective conferences here. They're going to still play regular season rules that, if the game's tied after three periods here, that they'll play a 5 minute, 3-on-3 overtime and a shootout if needed here. While in the play-in round, it's playoff overtime rules where it is sudden death overtime here. And I'm going to say we're in the playoffs now. And definitely you're going to see a lot of hockey here. I mean, there's definitely going to be still to be determined like exactly when the games are going to be. And there's some speculation that the games will be the play-in games will happen. There's going to be like 3 games in one day in each hub state series. You could potentially watch 6 games here. And I believe that the schedule is that this is local time, so we can either do conversion in Toronto, which is 2 hours ahead in my case, in Alberta here, and obviously with Edmonton hosting it, it'll be the same time here. That the game will start at noon, 4, and I believe 8 o'clock here, if I'm not mistaken, or 8:30 here. Local time here, so you can stagger out any particular series that you want to watch here, and it definitely works out that August 1st is part of the August long weekend here, so definitely can pick up some hockey here. And when it gets closer to those dates here, that's when I'll do a series preview as we find out, any injuries or any players that might opt out here on both sides here that could alter the series here. And I'm sure there'll be a bracket challenge that the NHL will have, so I'll probably make a video talking about that here. So yeah, July 13th training camp begins, and it's 2 weeks. July 26th, that's when the teams will be going to hub cities here. So let's say, for example, the Calgary Flames, they will be just going up the road, the QE2, up to Edmonton here, and likely will be the only team that won't be flying here, because usually, given, the infrastructure for travel here, and given that it's from downtown to downtown, it's 300 kilometers here, it's actually more efficient to get to Edmonton on a bus here. So I'm going to assume it'll be in a isolated bus here, but teams will travel to their hub cities on July 26th here after training camp here, and there actually is going to be a couple exhibition games, and I think it's on the 28th or 29th there of July. I'll pull this article here because let's go all the dates here, and definitely it's going to be crazy once games get going and off-season business here, because everything's going to be compressed here because we waited 4.5 months for hockey here. I mean, at the time when this pause button was pressed here, we were hoping that we'll be back in a month and we'll just conclude the regular season, which obviously that's not going to happen now, and still have the playoffs at the full pace here. That Stanley would be awarded, let's say, the end of July here, but we're talking about hockey being restarted at the end of August here. That tells you out here. So yeah, July 13th, the camp's open. So in a couple days here, everyone's going to be playing in camp here. And I know that the other part of their bubble here is that there's going to be 52 players, or 52 people left from each team that can go here. And that teams can carry 30 players here, because keep in mind that the AHL, there's no farm team that you can call someone up from. So there's going to be 30 players. And I think your teams can only bring 3 coaches, some representatives of the team, like general manager, any management there, and then trainers and all that. And then the league also says that they'll take care of injuries or any illnesses during the time here instead of the teams there. So try to minimize the contact here. So and I said July 26th, that's when the teams go to the hub city here. It's the 20th to 30th here that there'll be exhibition games, and I think that definitely would be critical just to get a couple exhibition games in, just to knock some rust off, and maybe get a pre-ramp before we go right into playoffs here, because once you get a playoff hockey here, it's definitely going to be a big shock to the system here. So then to August 1st, that's when the qualifiers begin, either the play-in series or the round robin here. And then August 10th, which definitely is another key date here, phase 2 of the NHL draft lottery here. So the play-in series and the round robin, when they decide the top 4 seeds in each conference here, And we'll find out who did not make it out of the play-in series here. Because as you know here, and I might as well recap the draft lotteries. I did it for the Phase 1 just because, well, the placeholder team that won it here. So maybe a consolation prize would be is if you don't get out of the play-in series, you could have potentially win the first overall pick here and have a right to draft Alexis Lafreniere here. So, that would soften the blow a little bit. Let's say if the Flames, lost in 5 in triple overtime to the Winnipeg Jets here, and then we find out in a couple days, we got the first overall pick. We get Alexis Lafreniere here. I agree, but I'd rather have Calgary go further in the playoffs than have a right to draft Alexis Lafreniere here. So that would be decided where he could be going here. And then August 11th, that's when the first round begins. So definitely, and there's going to be 52 games I saw that will be played between August 1st and 9th here, because the 10th would be the official day off for the draft lottery. So August 11th is the first round. And then the rest of this will be tentative dates here, depending on, how long series go. And of course, there it goes plan here. And I'm going to say I'm optimism with the plan here, because once everyone's in their bubble here, I might say they're going to be the safest part of the country here and away from, potential exposure to the virus here. So August 25th, round 2 begins. And then September the 8th here, that's the conference finals will begin. So after that, the second round here, the teams that are still left standing in Toronto here will move shot to Edmonton here, and then have 4 teams, the Final 4 in Edmonton here. And then September 22nd, that's when the Stanley Cup Finals will begin here. Crazy to think that that's when exhibition for the upcoming season will begin here, but in this case, given these very, very unique, unusual circumstances here, the Stanley Cup Finals will begin here. And then the last possible date, if it goes to Game 7, won't be till October 4th here. That's usually around where opening day is. That's when Stanley will be coming out of the box and be hoisted here. So at least we're still salvaging something and be able to still get a Stanley Cup champion and just still being in the limelight. That's all that matters here. So that October 4th here, which that's on a Sunday here. And then Thanksgiving weekend, this is where it's going to get very crazy here, is that the 2020 NHL Entry Draft will happen on October 9th and 10th here. So you got the first round that will happen on the Friday night as usual. This is all going to be virtual here. And then the rest of the rounds, 2 to 7, will happen on the Saturday day here. So that's the key dates here. And my understanding here, what will make this even crazier here, is that as the draft is going on, my understanding that's when eventually the free agent frenzy would also begin here. So as we got the draft going on, we'll definitely have free agent frenzy going on. So definitely be interested to know how many moves can be made here. And also the fact that the cap is going to be flat here. So a lot of teams will have to make some decisions here to how to worry about getting players signed, especially if they have upcoming unrestricted free agents or restricted free agents here. So yeah, definitely going to be a lot to compress in here. And then my understanding is that November 1st, that's when the official beginning of the 2020-21 season begins here for business here. And then November 17th is when training camps will begin for the upcoming season. And then this December 1st is when the 2020-21 season will begin, where we drop the puck on that. And the NHL is still committed to playing 82 games here. So the Stanley might not get awarded until October 4th here, and then you barely will have time to celebrate that. And I think considering where we are in the pandemic here, and who knows where we're going to be here, this might be the most low-key celebration of all time for the Stanley Cup here. I wonder if you're going to see players kissing the Stanley Cup or going to any bars here, because there's definitely some rules about players aren't allowed to do their fist pump thing or like before the game, and interaction's definitely going to be different here. Who knows? Maybe we're not going to see probably you don't see much fights in playoffs regardless if we're social distancing or not here, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how things are going to interact here. And and also the fact that now that, let's say, next season won't start till December instead of October here, given they want to salvage the playoffs and get the Stanley Cup awarded here. You got to wonder when they plan on finishing the 2020-21 season here, because if it starts in December here, we're going to have to try to compress it so it gets awarded, let's say, the middle of August here, and then slowly shift it back here if indeed we want to start the season, back in October here. It's definitely going to take, 3 or 4 seasons before we get there, and, if the NHL plans to, which is part of the CBA, that they do want to play in the 2022-2026 Winter Olympics here, but that's not all official until once the league talks with the International Olympic Committee and the International Ice Hockey Federation, because I know that the NHL definitely was more committed to wanting to play in China in the 2022 Olympics that were going to be in Beijing here. And given what's been going on here, I mean, who knows if that could still happen here, because if you recall here, if things were normal here, well, I'd be talking about off-season stuff and not talking about hockey just starting and Stanley not being awarded till October here, but the 2020 Summer Olympics would have been happening or almost now here, and definitely that got pushed back a year there, and there's not 100% confidence that that's going to happen here. And speaking of next season here, we definitely don't know yet if there's still going to be hub cities, or they're going to still play in their normal arenas here with or without fans. That's still yet to be determined at this point here, but this is definitely a dry run for potentially next season, because it's still not going to be business as usual in my mind here, especially if there's still a border restriction between Canada and the US here. But yeah, it's definitely a lot to take in, but it's exciting to know that the CBA has been ratified. We are got labor peace in the NHL between the league and the Players Association up until at least 2026 now. I mean, in a couple seasons here, the 2021-22 season here. Come on, just name the team, the Kraken already. Seattle's going to be coming in, and then there's a TV contract that's expiring in the US here. So this is definitely critical that the NHL definitely be able to agree and extend the CBA here. And I felt that even before this global pandemic, that there was more optimism that we won't have any lockouts or strikes here, because I don't think there's anything major on the other side, because I think for the most part in general, you're not going to get 100% satisfaction here, and 79% of the Players Association agreed on both the turn to play and the CBA here, so you're never going to get 100% satisfaction. He was unanimous with the owners in that, I understand it here, but there was no major big storyline or sticking point here in the negotiation that I felt that it was worth losing games over. I mean, it used to be the war on, the league says we need a salary cap, and the Players Association said we definitely didn't need a salary cap, and eventually the Players Association lost that. And as I always keep saying, that lockout that wiped out the 2004-05 season, that was necessary. I think we needed that lockout for the league to be at the state they're in right now. And then, of course, games. It will definitely be nice to have games to talk about here in the not too distant future here. So my plan here for Calgary Flames and my game recaps here, that it will be episode 15. I'll do a series preview between the Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets here. Once we know the exact schedule and times here. Actually, I think if I bring up the app right now, at least the dates for the games are decided. It's just a matter when the puck's going to be dropped here. So just give me a minute here to find the exact schedule here. So the schedule for the series here is that Calgary was the 8th seed and Winnipeg is the 9th seed here. So Calgary will be the home team and will have last change here. But you can almost say that could be irrelevant here for all series here. Even for Edmonton and Toronto. At least they'll be in their home building here, but you're not going to have your home fans and last change here. So August 1st, that will be game 1 of that series here. And then August 3rd, that will be Monday, and actually that is the Heritage Day, Civic Holiday, whatever you want to call it up here in Canada. That will be game 2, August 3rd here. And then game 4 will happen on Tuesday, August the 4th here. And then if we need a game 4, because keep in mind the play-in series is a best of 5 here, will be on Thursday, August the 6th here. And then games 1 and 2, the Flames are the home team. And then games 3 and 4, if needed, Winnipeg would be the home team here. And then if we need game 5 here, and kind of not to give out a spoiler, I think we're going to need all 5 games when it comes to the Flames and Jets here. That game would be on Saturday, August the 8th here, and Calgary will be the home team here. And here, you need to do Calgary Flames. These are now going to be our road jerseys. And eventually I'm going to have to pick myself up a retro red jersey here. That's what we should be wearing the whole time in the playoffs here. Regardless of how long we're playing here, and then while you're at it, just say those are our jerseys full time. I got to throw that in there too. But so at least that's the dates when we know it's game day for the Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets here. You can take a look at the NHL and 52 games in 9 days. So we're definitely making up for lots of lost time here, and eventually, as more restrictions ease up here, we're definitely going to have to make up for a lot of lost time being in lockdown here. But it's definitely exciting and encouraging here to talk about games coming soon here, and definitely waited a long time for this, of course, as safely as possible, and hopefully as things tighten down a little bit when it comes to players getting in training camp, focusing on the goal at hand here is, we've got 24 teams, but only one Stanley Cup here. And only one team is really happy at the end of the day. And the other thing I always like to say, that truly only one team has a happy green garbage bag day, and that involves having the trophy in the locker room here. And you definitely hear there's penalties, like steep penalties in terms of if anyone goes out of the bubble here, that teams could get disciplined, like losing draft picks or that definitely gets you out of favor with the team if you do that, unless you want to, leave said team. But I think NHL players in their union will do the right thing here, and there's definitely protocols where if players need to go out here, they definitely need to go check through. It's almost like it's definitely going to be a very controlled environment here, but this is necessary to have hockey and just with the environment right now here. So I know it's definitely a lot to give out here, but I think the NHL was waiting for, saying we'll announce the return to play plan. Oh yeah, while we're at it, we'll just throw in saying that we got some labor peace for at least 4 more seasons after the 2022 season there. And just, my feelings and takes on everything here, and, just speculation on once the games are over here. This off-season is definitely going to be a lot more compressed here, and the fact that it's going to be even more of a free agent frenzy. There's definitely less time to court, players to come play for your side here, and then add in a flat salary cap, and decisions are going to be made here, and then suddenly you're drafted and you're signed here, and then suddenly you go, oh crap, I need to report to the team here in a couple weeks, a couple months here, and hopefully get going to a 2020 and 21 season here. So what do you think of everything here? Are you excited that hockey's coming back here, and I'll just wait a couple of weeks here before I do my series preview for the Calgary Flames and Winnipeg Jets here, and that will be episode 15 here. Might as well, once we know the exhibition games, I'll throw that in the preview, and then episode 16, which I guess will be after August 8th here, I'll recap how the play-in series happened with the Flames and Jets here, and hopefully, after making that video, there'll be an episode 17 recapping the real first round here. And keep in mind, it's the good old conference format, which I personally like better. So we definitely won't know who we could potentially draw in the first round, assuming we get past the Winnipeg Jets here, because everybody gets reseeded after the first and the second rounds here based on seeding here. But there's still a lot to be determined here, and I'm sure I'll make a bracket preview or a bracket challenge that the NHL I'm sure will have, and I'll do my predictions and who I think will ultimately will win the Stanley Cup for 2020 here. NHL 20 thinks we have what it takes here. You can see that video where the CBS Sports did their simulation, and the hockey guy, one of the YouTubers I definitely watch and follow, that inspired me to be more active here. And then the Matchsticks and Gasoline, all part of that Sportsport Nation there network, they all did a simulation, and Calgary won the Stanley Cup in 3 of those cases here. So I can dream. So anyway, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders here. You know what you do, just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I mostly talk Calgary sports, and definitely been talking, especially the last few months, on plans or my feelings on their return to play plans or at the NHL and some other major leagues here. And I think eventually I'll give my final thoughts on the NBA and the MLB as well here. Not in the next couple days here, but I only have time to make videos here. But it's definitely exciting that pretty soon, if things all go as planned here, we'll be talking about games here. I also do some personal vlogs and attempt to comedy, and I also do share my experiences. Let's say I'm on the road or I'm supporting it here. I'm not going to be doing those two activities anytime soon here. And we're with a lean summer here with still events and gatherings being banned until the end of August here. And definitely was missing out on the Calgary Stampede this year, but at least having hockey coming back, and I'm not as confident with the MLB here, but definitely be nice to might have some Blue Jays baseball here. And I think, once everyone settles in the bubble in Orlando, Florida for the NBA here, that would be nice to have some sports to talk about and watch starting next month here. And football is still up in the air both on sides of the border here in terms of are we actually going to have a CFL season here. And the NFL, they started shaving off, let's say, we could shave off a couple preseason games here, but football is going to like that, except the fact that you're not going to be playing with fans in your stadiums here. But that's another story here. So if that, all that plus all my sports, if that all sounds like be interesting to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey. You know what you need to do. I also have my other social media links down in the description below there for other ways you can follow me or see another side of me. Let's say if you follow me on Instagram here, where I definitely am more than just a sports fan here, which that's what my channel is all about here. So please like and subscribe, and give me comments on what you think of my content, and of course add it on to what I'll talk about here. Definitely was a lot to take in here, but this is a big day that we got some labor peace and hockey could be turning back here. So as I say here, go Flames go, and I'll see you in the next video. And I guess I could slowly start preparing my notes for the Calgary Flames Winnipeg Jets series preview video here. And once we get closer to the actual date, once we know the schedule in terms of what times all the games will start here and who we will be playing in the exhibition games here, and of course who's going to be in, who's going to be out of the series here, I'll make that video, and stay tuned for that. At least now we know a schedule here, so know when to expect my series preview video here. I can just give you a preview here that I think the Flames and Jets will need all 5 games, and I think there's going to be some overtime here. And then I'm going to say the big storylines, just to give you a preview here, is Connor Hellebuyck, as he definitely has Calgary Flames number here, and our top scorer, especially our top line, they're definitely going to be feeling some extra pressure here to produce here, in terms of also being Connor Hellebuyck here, and also the fact that I think the Flames definitely have something to prove themselves after that brief cameo that we had with the Colorado Avalanche in the first round last season here, which definitely was a disappointing finish here, considering the Calgary Flames, as I always say, for the 2018-19 season, they had the best regular season in a generation. They had the top record in the Western Conference here, and second highest scoring team in the league, and looked like we were Stanley Cup contenders here, but that went kaput. We got buried by the Avalanche here, but hopefully, things will be different in 2020 here to make it less crappy of a year as it's been here. So as I say, I'll see you in the next video, and thanks for watching all of my content here.